You are afraid of being alone. You won't admit it out loud, of course. But watch your days. Watch your hand reaching for the phone in the first second of silence. Watch how you turn on the television before you've even taken your shoes off. How you fill every empty space with noise, with people, with podcasts, with notifications, with anything that drowns out that uncomfortable voice that surfaces when you are truly alone. Watch how the silence, after just a few minutes, starts to feel like a threat, almost like a punishment, something you need to escape at any cost. We live in the most connected age in human history, and yet loneliness has never been more widespread. That paradox is the first clue that something is deeply wrong with the way we understand being alone. What if I told you, looking you straight in the eye, that this desperate flight from solitude is the greatest act of cowardice in your life? One man knew solitude like almost no one in history.
Not the romantic solitude of the poets, but the glacial, absolute solitude of the heights where almost no one dares to climb. His name was Friedrich Nietzsche. Born in 1844 in Germany, he spent his last lucid years almost completely isolated, walking alone through the Swiss Alps, writing letters that few ever answered, creating a philosophy that no one in his era understood. He was abandoned by friends, betrayed in love, ignored by the academic world. And yet he did not call solitude a curse. He called it his homeland, the place where, at last, he could breathe. While the world treated him as a misunderstood madman, he climbed even higher, into thinner air, and from up there he glimpsed truths that no one down below, in the comfortable warmth of the herd, would ever be able to see. Nietzsche wrote in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, "Flee, my friend, into your solitude." For him, solitude was not the punishment of the rejected. It was the rare privilege of the strong, the laboratory where the soul forges itself, the only place where a person can finally meet what they truly are. He understood something that our age, addicted to permanent connection, has completely forgotten, that there is an abyssal difference between being alone and being lost, and that learning that difference may be the most important thing you ever do in your life. If you came to this video hoping someone will tell you that your solitude is just sadness, that you only need to go out more, download more dating apps, fill your calendar with empty commitments, close this video right now. There are thousands of channels ready to shove you back into the noisy herd. But if you suspect, in the silence of the night, that there is something in your solitude you have not yet understood, if you sense that maybe, just maybe, being alone is not the problem, but the doorway to something greater, then stay. Nietzsche has 7 dark truths about solitude. We are not here to comfort you. We are here to teach you how to inhabit the silence, to transform what you fear into your greatest ally. Because how you handle your own solitude may be the most honest test of the size of your soul. First truth. Your terror of solitude is, in reality, the terror of meeting yourself. Think with brutal honesty, why does silence bother you so much? Why, when you stay alone for a few hours, does this anxiety arise, this urgency to grab the phone, to text anyone, to put on music, to watch anything at all? Nietzsche has a disturbing answer. You don't flee from solitude because it is empty. You flee from it because it is too full. When all the external noise disappears, you are forced to hear the one sound you have spent your entire life trying to avoid, your own inner voice. And that voice asks terrible questions. Are you living the life you wanted?
Have you become who you promised to be?
Or have you simply followed the script that others wrote for you? The crowd is an anesthetic. Inside it, you never have to answer those questions. You distract yourself with other people's opinions, with gossip, with other people's drama. And so you postpone, day after day, the most important meeting of your life, the meeting with yourself. You fill the hours with notifications, with shows, with conversations you forget the instant they end. All so you don't have to be alone with the one person you can never truly escape. You. The first truth is painful. As long as you are afraid of being alone, you will never truly know yourself. And whoever does not know himself is governed by everyone except himself. You become a leaf carried by the wind of other people's opinions, changing shape with every new company, never discovering your true weight, your true density, your true center of gravity. To you watching, if you have ever felt that discomfort in absolute silence, that sudden urge to flee from yourself, write one single word in the comments: silence. Whoever writes it knows exactly what I am talking about, and whoever reads it will understand they are not alone in that fear. Second truth. Chosen solitude is the forge of elevated spirits. Suffered solitude is mere isolation. Here Nietzsche makes a crucial distinction that almost no one understands. There is an abyssal difference between being isolated and being solitary by choice. Isolation is imposed. It is a wound. It is the person no one wants around. Nietzschean solitude is different. It is the voluntary and proud withdrawal of the one who needs space to create, to think, to become great. Nietzsche wrote that there are things so delicate and precious that they must be protected from the crude eyes of the crowd. Your deepest thoughts, your most ambitious projects, your most intimate transformation, all of this needs silence to ripen. A seed does not germinate in the middle of the noise of a party. It needs the dark, quiet, solitary earth. Every great creator in history knew this. They withdrew. They sought the mountains, the deserts, the closed rooms, the long, solitary walks. Not because they hated people, but because they loved what they were creating too much to let it die in the noise. Nietzsche composed his most brilliant works while walking alone for hours along the trails of Sils-Maria in the Alps, where the silence of the mountains was so complete that he could hear his own thoughts being born. It was in that chosen solitude that Zarathustra was born. Long before him, Thoreau understood the same thing when he walked into the woods at Walden, to live deliberately, far from the noise of the town. The second truth demands a decision. Stop treating your solitude as a punishment. Start treating it as your sacred workshop. It is there, and only there, far from the voices telling you who you should be, that you can finally build yourself. Noise entertains you, but silence transforms you. And no one ever became great by being merely entertained. Third truth. The people around you don't want you to be alone, because your solitude threatens them. Notice something curious. When you decide to withdraw, to spend more time alone, to dive into your own projects, people react badly. They say you've changed, that you've become strange, that you're isolating yourself, that you need to get out more. They insist that you return to the group, to the same empty conversations, to the same meaningless social rituals. Why this insistence? Nietzsche has a cruel answer. It is not because they care about you so much.
It is because your productive solitude exposes the emptiness of their own lives.
While you are alone, reading, creating, thinking, growing, you become an uncomfortable mirror. You remind them, without saying a word, of everything they are afraid to face when they are alone. The herd hates the one who walks away, not out of love, but out of herd instinct. The sheep that wanders off reminds all the others that leaving the herd is possible, and that terrifies those who only know how to live inside it. It is easier to drag back the one who dared to leave than to confront your own missing courage. The third truth liberates. Not every withdrawal is abandonment. Sometimes, distancing yourself from the people who drag you toward mediocrity is the healthiest and most courageous act you can commit. You owe no explanations to anyone who only wants you around so they don't have to look at their own reflection. Distance, in certain cases, is not coldness. It is self-preservation. The old saying holds more truth than we admit. The moment you start to rise, the first ones to try to pull you back down are often the ones standing closest to you. Fourth truth. In solitude, you discover who you are without an audience. We spend our entire lives performing. We are one person at work, another with family, another with friends, another on social media. We wear masks so constantly that we forget what our true face beneath them even looks like. We live for the approval of others, adjusting every word, every gesture, every opinion to please the invisible audience that judges us all the time. Nietzsche understood that most of what we call personality is, in truth, merely performance. It is the character we construct to survive socially, and there is only one place where the mask falls completely: true solitude. When there is no one to impress, no one to please, no one to fear, what remains? You remain. The naked you without social makeup. And it is terrifying at first, because we often realize we don't know who we are without an audience. We have built an entire life around the gaze of others, and when that gaze disappears, we discover a stranger living in our own house. The fourth truth is an invitation and a challenge. Use solitude as an honest mirror. Stay alone long enough for the masks to fall. Only after they fall can you finally begin to discover your true face and to build an identity that depends on no one's applause. Because an identity built for the audience collapses the instant the audience leaves. But an identity forged in solitude remains standing, even when the whole world turns its back. Fifth truth. Whoever cannot stand their own company is confessing they are bad company. This truth is the sharpest of all. Think about it calmly. When you cannot be alone, when you desperately need company all the time, what is the hidden message you are sending? You are saying, without realizing it, that your own company is unbearable. That being with yourself is so boring, so distressing, so empty, that you would rather have the company of anyone, however mediocre, than be alone with your own mind. Nietzsche would ask a direct question. If even you cannot tolerate yourself for a few hours, why do you expect others to? The person who flees from their own solitude is someone who has not yet built anything interesting inside themselves. A rich inner world full of ideas, of projects, of curiosities, of a vibrant internal landscape, does not fear silence. On the contrary, it longs for it, because it is in silence that this inner world blooms.
The truly strong person is the one who has become their own best friend, the one who enjoys their own company, who laughs alone at their own thoughts, who entertains themselves with their own mind. This person depends emotionally on no one, and that is why they are free.
They can enter any relationship by choice, not out of desperation. They can say no to any invitation, any person, any toxic environment, because the alternative, being alone, does not frighten them. And that capacity to say no is the foundation of all human freedom. The fifth truth is a call. Become such good company for yourself that solitude stops being a punishment and becomes one of the greatest pleasures of your life. Work on your inner world until being alone becomes synonymous with being in good company. Build a mind so rich, so curious, so full of its own projects and questions that an evening alone feels less like a sentence and more like a gift you finally get to unwrap. To those who have already turned their own solitude into a refuge, into a source of strength, leave one word in the comments: refuge. Let those who still fear the silence see that there is another way. Sixth truth. The abyss of solitude is where the great transformations are born. Every true metamorphosis happens in the dark and in silence. The caterpillar does not transform into a butterfly in public in the middle of the party. It isolates itself inside the cocoon, in total darkness, dissolves completely, and only then emerges as something entirely new. Solitude is your cocoon. Nietzsche believed that the great turning points of human existence happen in solitude. It is when we are alone, confronted with the abyss, that we are forced to ask the questions that change everything. Who am I? What do I really want? What am I willing to destroy in myself in order to be reborn? These moments are not comfortable. They taste of the abyss, of anguish, of existential emptiness. But Nietzsche teaches us that it is precisely from this emptiness that creation springs. When you touch the bottom of your own solitude and survive, you discover that you did not need all that company, all that approval, all that noise. The sixth truth demands courage. Do not flee from the abyss of solitude. Dive into it with your eyes open. It is at the bottom of it, and not on the noisy surface of social life, that you will find the raw material of your own reinvention. Nietzsche said that you must have chaos within you to give birth to a dancing star, and that chaos only organizes itself in silence. The crowd scatters your energy in 1,000 useless directions. Solitude concentrates it, the way a lens concentrates sunlight until it burns. This is why the greatest minds always passed through long periods of withdrawal, because they knew, even if only by instinct, that no one reinvents themselves in the middle of the noise. Transformation demands retreat. Seventh and final truth. Solitude is not the opposite of love. It is the condition for loving truly. Here Nietzsche dissolves the greatest confusion of all. People rush into relationships, friendships, and crowds because they cannot stand being alone. But a relationship built on the fear of solitude is not love. It is dependence. It is two empty people clinging to each other so as not to sink. Two drowning people holding on instead of learning to swim. Nietzsche had a different and far nobler vision. True love is only possible between two individuals who are already whole on their own. Whoever has learned to inhabit their own solitude does not search in the other for a plug to fill their emptiness. Instead,
They search for someone with whom to share their fullness. Not a cure for lack, but a companion for abundance. When you are enough for yourself, when you don't need the other person to survive emotionally, your love becomes a free choice and not a desperate necessity. And there is nothing more beautiful than being loved by someone who chooses to be with you when they could be perfectly fine alone. Two complete individuals do not cling to each other like two drowning swimmers.
They walk side by side, each one firm on their own legs, and that is precisely why the walk lasts. The seventh truth is the most liberating of all. Learn first to be happy in your own company. Only then will you be ready to love truly, without clinging, without suffocating, without turning the other person into your lifeboat. Solitude, well lived, does not pull you away from love. It finally makes you capable of it. We have reached the end of our journey through the silence. 7 dark truths from Nietzsche about solitude. Let us recap. First, your fear of solitude is, deep down, the fear of meeting yourself. Second, chosen solitude is the forge of elevated spirits, not a punishment. Third, people resist your withdrawal because your solitude exposes their emptiness. Fourth, in solitude, without an audience, the masks fall and you discover your true face. Fifth, whoever cannot stand their own company confesses to being bad company. Sixth, the abyss of solitude is the cocoon where the great transformations are born. Seventh, solitude is not the opposite of love. It is the condition for loving truly. Nietzsche did not write about solitude to leave you more alone. He wrote to free you from the terror you feel in the face of silence. He saw humanity drowning in noise precisely so it would not have to look itself in the eye. And he offered a different path, solitude as conquest, as strength, as the place where the free person is born. Not the bitter solitude of the isolated, but the fertile solitude of the Creator. If any of these truths touched you in a sensitive spot, good. Discomfort is the first sign that something inside you is awakening. Write in the comments, which of these 7 truths about solitude was the hardest to face? Not the most beautiful one, but the one that stirred your real relationship with silence. I will be reading every single one.
If this video made you see solitude in a new way, drop your like. That tells the algorithm there are still people willing to face the silence instead of fleeing from it. Subscribe to this channel. It is not for those who need constant noise. It is for those who are ready to learn to inhabit their own silence. Next week, we will return together to the abyss to dissect another hidden mechanism of the human soul. Until then, remember one thing. You are never truly alone when you learn to be good company for yourself. Go, inhabit your silence, and discover at last who you are when no one is watching. Because it is precisely there, in the place you fear most, that your greatest freedom lives. And the day you stop running from your own solitude, you will discover that you were never more accompanied than when you finally learned to be alone.